Archaeology, as a science, is often forced to adjust its methods and conclusions to fit the evidence, which doesn't always align with the conventional understanding of history. David Hatcher Childress, Technology of the Gods, 2000. The Giza pyramids remain the most enduring legacy of ancient Egypt, their very presence reminding us of a civilization that, though long past, still casts its shadow over history. The great Egyptologist Sir Flinders Petrie, in The Pyramids and Temples of Gizeh, 1883, wrote of their enduring majesty. When we gaze upon the pyramids, we are not merely looking at great tombs, but at the last survivors of a civilization whose vision extended beyond mortality. Their builders did not merely intend to leave behind a monument, but rather to construct a bridge between worlds, a threshold between time and eternity. It is no exaggeration to say that the pyramids are the most indestructible works of man, surpassing in endurance all the proud empires that rose and fell around them. The famed historian James Henry Breasted, in A History of Egypt, 1905, similarly commented on the pyramids' symbolic weight. When the pharaohs commanded their tombs to be built, they were not merely seeking to house their remains, but to bind their souls to the fabric of the world itself. The pyramids, in their imperishable grandeur, have outlasted the gods they were meant to honor, and now stand as the ultimate survivors of human ambition. Graham Hancock, in Fingerprints of the Gods, 1995, reflects on their seemingly timeless endurance. It is a sobering thought that we live in a world where almost nothing lasts. Cities crumble, empires vanish, and knowledge is lost to the sands of time. Yet the pyramids of Egypt remain, unchanged, untouched, eternal. How can it be that structures raised in antiquity continue to defy time, while modern civilizations struggle to preserve even their greatest achievements? It is as though the pyramids were built not for men, but for the gods themselves. Similarly, John Romer, in The Great Pyramid, Ancient Egypt Revisited, 2007, marvels at their unmatched permanence. The Great Pyramid is not simply an artifact, it is a survivor of epochs that have long since faded into legend. It was already ancient in the days of Herodotus, who gazed upon it with wonder and awe, much as we do today. In its continued presence, it has defied wars, conquests, and disasters, standing unchanged while all else has shifted around it. In the end, the pyramids may outlast even our own civilizations, as they have outlasted those before us. Even the classical historian Diodorus Siculus, writing in the 1st century BCE, was amazed by the pyramids' resilience. The Egyptians built works that mock the ravages of time and outlive the very names of their builders. These tombs, these mountains of stone, were not raised for men, but for eternity itself. Petrie, in The Pyramids and Temples of Gizeh, 1883, was among the first to document the pyramid's astonishing geometric precision. The casing stones of the Great Pyramid were originally so perfectly fitted that the space between them measured less than a 50th of an inch, a degree of accuracy scarcely achievable even with modern tools. The entire monument, moreover, is aligned to true north with an error of only 3 arc minutes, a precision unmatched in any other ancient structure. These facts suggest that the ancient Egyptians possessed an expertise in surveying and measurement that rivaled that of much later civilizations. Robert Bauval, in The Orion Mystery, Unlocking the Secrets of the Pyramids, 1994, argues that the layout of the pyramids at Giza mirrors the Orion constellation. The pyramids were not built at random, they were designed as a reflection of the heavens. The alignment of their shafts, their placement relative to one another, and their orientation towards specific stars all indicate that the builders were encoding astronomical knowledge into their monuments. John Taylor, in The Great Pyramid, Why Was It Built and Who Built It?, was one of the first to propose that the ratio of the pyramid's dimensions encodes fundamental constants of mathematics. The height of the Great Pyramid stands in precise relation to its base, forming a near-perfect phi ratio, 1.618, also known as the Golden Ratio. Furthermore, when twice the height of the pyramid is divided by the base perimeter, the result is pi 3.14159, a value embedded within the structure millennia before it was supposedly discovered by Greek mathematicians. Modern studies have confirmed the astonishing precision of the pyramid's orientation. Dr. Mark Lehner, in The Complete Pyramids, 1997, writes, "The Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy of less than 1/15 of a degree. Considering the technology available to the pyramid builders, this level of precision is extraordinary. The only plausible explanation is that the ancient Egyptians were highly skilled astronomers and surveyors who employed sophisticated methods of observation and measurement." Further supporting this idea, astronomer Sir J. Norman Lockyer, in The Dawn of Astronomy, 1894, investigated the celestial alignments of Egyptian monuments and noted that the builders of the Great Pyramid oriented their structure with an accuracy unparalleled in antiquity, likely using the stars as their guide. The evidence suggests that they carefully observed the heliacal rising of Sirius and the movements of Orion, ensuring that the pyramid was in perfect harmony with the heavens. It is difficult to imagine this precision being achieved without a profound knowledge of astronomical cycles. Some researchers have gone further, suggesting that the position of the Great Pyramid on Earth itself encodes important geodetic information. Charles Piazzi Smythe, in Our Inheritance in the Great Pyramid, 1864, proposed that the pyramid's location, at latitude 29.9792 degrees north, closely matches the speed of light in meters per second, 299,792,458 meters per second. While this could be a coincidence, it is a remarkable one, suggesting that the builders may have had an awareness of fundamental physical constants long before they were formally discovered by modern science. Though mainstream scholars caution against over-interpretation of numerical coincidences, there is no doubt that the Great Pyramid stands as one of the most mathematically and astronomically precise structures ever built. As historian J. A. West remarks in Serpent in the Sky, 1993, to dismiss the Great Pyramid as merely a tomb is to ignore its most striking characteristics: its geometric sophistication, precise alignment to celestial bodies, and extraordinary proportions. Whether we fully understand its purpose or not, the evidence suggests that it was designed not just as a monument, but as a repository of profound mathematical and astronomical knowledge. How do we account for the fact that a civilization created an architectural marvel that modern engineers would struggle to replicate today, thousands of years ago? Famed architect and engineer Jean-Pierre Houdin, in The Secret of the Great Pyramid, 2007, reflects on the pyramid's unparalleled precision. The Great Pyramid is not simply a large pile of stones. It is a technological masterpiece. Its builders achieved a level of precision in the alignment, measurements, and execution that would be difficult even with modern machinery. Its base is almost perfectly level, its four sides aligned to true north within a fraction of a degree, and its stones, some weighing up to 80 tons, were transported from hundreds of miles away. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, marveled at the Great Pyramid's construction, stating in Histories, "It is said that the pyramid took 20 years to build. Yet the complexity of the task suggests a wisdom beyond mere manual labor. The methods employed, though lost to time, must have required knowledge that even the finest engineers today would admire." Modern scholars, too, acknowledge the anomaly presented by the pyramid's sophisticated engineering. Egyptologist Mark Lehner, in The Complete Pyramids, 1997, notes, "The common misconception is that the pyramid builders were primitive workers hauling stones with crude tools. In reality, the level of planning, organization, and knowledge required for such a feat implies a highly structured society with remarkable command over logistics, materials science, and geometry." The more we study the pyramids, the more we realize that we have underestimated the intellectual achievements of the ancient world. Furthermore, Robert Bauval, in The Orion Mystery, argues that the architectural and astronomical sophistication of the pyramids suggests a level of knowledge not typically attributed to early civilizations. The idea that early humans were primitive and unsophisticated is contradicted by the existence of structures like the Great Pyramid. Either we must radically rethink our view of early civilizations, or we must accept that the knowledge underpinning the pyramids came from a source outside the traditional historical timeline. Similarly, Graham Hancock in Fingerprints of the Gods, 1995, questions how early societies achieved such grandeur. We are told that civilization progressed from simple beginnings to complex societies, but the pyramids suggest otherwise. If these monuments had been built in the 20th century, we would marvel at their engineering. Instead, they stand as relics of the past, prompting the unsettling question: did an earlier, highly advanced civilization pass down its knowledge to the builders of the Great Pyramid? If so, where are the records of this lost legacy? Even classical historians recognize the superior craftsmanship of ancient Egyptian architecture. Diodorus Siculus, writing in the 1st century BCE, admitted, "The Egyptians of old achieved wonders that even the greatest nations of our time could not surpass. They raised monuments to their kings, so massive and enduring that they alone among men have found a way to challenge the passage of time." The mainstream view insists that it was built using simple copper tools, ramps, and brute labor, yet its incredible precision, astronomical alignments, and sheer scale defy easy explanations. As John Anthony West, in Serpent in the Sky, 1993, so aptly puts it, "If the Great Pyramid was built with the tools and knowledge attributed to the Old Kingdom Egyptians, then it is one of the greatest miracles in human history. If it was built with knowledge beyond what we currently recognize, then our entire understanding of early civilization needs to be rewritten." Civilization is not a new phenomenon. Instead, it has existed at various times throughout mankind's long past, rising and falling, sometimes leaving traces, and at other times vanishing without a clear historical record. As Graham Hancock argues in Fingerprints of the Gods, 1995, we are told that civilization is something recent, a fortunate accident of agriculture and settled life, but the evidence contradicts this. Across the world, we find traces of ancient sophistication, monuments, myths, and knowledge that suggest an inheritance from a lost epoch. The pyramids of Egypt, the megaliths of South America, the submerged ruins off the coasts of India and Japan, all of these hint at a forgotten chapter of human history, one that does not fit into the narrow framework of modern historical thought. Archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, who led the excavation of Göbekli Tepe, a temple complex in Turkey dating back over 12,000 years, states in Göbekli Tepe, Genesis of the Gods, 2016. The discovery of Göbekli Tepe forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the origins of civilization. It was built by people who, according to traditional archaeology, should have been primitive hunter-gatherers. Yet here, we have monumental architecture on a vast scale, intricate carvings, and what appears to be an advanced spiritual culture. Civilization did not start with Sumer or Egypt. It is much, much older. The Egyptian civilization, often regarded as the cradle of civilization, was itself deeply concerned with an even more ancient past, referring to an epoch known as Zep Tepi, the first time when gods and demigods ruled the land. Schwaller de Lubitsch, in Sacred Science, 1961, states, "The Egyptians never saw themselves as pioneers of civilization. Their texts make it clear that they believed they were the inheritors of a vast and ancient knowledge passed down from an age long before their own. The idea that civilization began with them is purely a modern imposition, one that disregards the Egyptians' own understanding of their past." Similarly, classical historian Diodorus Siculus, writing in the 1st century BCE, recorded that Egyptian priests claimed an immensely old civilization, predating even their first dynasties. The Egyptians say that they are the most ancient people on earth, and that their civilization is but the shadow of a far greater one that existed before them. They hold that their knowledge of writing, astronomy, and architecture came not from their own invention, but from an age that is now lost to time. The idea that civilization has risen and fallen multiple times throughout human history is also supported by archaeological anomalies. Dr. Charles Hapgood, in Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, 1966, describes how early maps, such as the Piri Reis map, appear to show an accurate depiction of Antarctica before it was covered in ice. How could a medieval map contain details of Antarctica's coastline before it was buried under ice? The only logical explanation is that this knowledge comes from a civilization much older than we currently recognize. The historical record as it stands cannot explain such data. This suggests that an ancient maritime civilization, capable of advanced navigation, existed long before recorded history. Furthermore, historian John Anthony West, in Serpent in the Sky, 1993, argues that the Great Sphinx of Giza bears evidence of water erosion, suggesting it was built long before 2007, the Egyptian civilization officially began. The weathering patterns on the Sphinx do not match those of mere wind and sand erosion. They suggest prolonged exposure to heavy rainfall. This means that the Sphinx may have been built at a time when the climate of Egypt was radically different, perhaps as far back as 10,000 BCE, a period that predates all known civilizations. If this is the case, then we must ask, who built it, and what lost civilization did they belong to? Even mainstream scholars are beginning to question the traditional timeline of human civilization. Dr. David Reich, a Harvard geneticist, notes in Who We Are and How We Got Here, 2018. We have long assumed that civilization developed only in the past 6,000 years, but genetic and archaeological evidence increasingly suggests that there were sophisticated cultures long before that. If we are to fully understand the human past, we must be open to the possibility that entire chapters of history, chapters of civilization, have been lost to time. Thus, while modern history presents a straightforward, linear progression, the evidence suggests that civilization is far older and far more cyclical than traditionally thought. As Graham Hancock succinctly puts it, "We are a species with amnesia. We have forgotten our past, but the evidence of its grandeur still lingers, buried beneath the sand, beneath the ocean, and in the myths of ancient cultures. It is time to remember." While archaeologists generally contend that the Great Pyramid was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu of the 4th dynasty, circa 2623 BC, this has been questioned by various written accounts and recent discoveries. The inventory stela, discovered in the 19th century near the Great Pyramid, presents an inscription that appears to suggest the pyramid and the Sphinx predated Khufu. His Majesty, King Khufu, came upon this site and found the temple of Isis, mistress of the pyramid, in ruins. He ordered its reconstruction and built a new temple alongside it. The Byzantine historian George Syncellus, who lived in the 9th century CE, preserved extracts from the now-lost work Sothis, written by the Egyptian priest Manetho. Syncellus cites Manetho's account that Egypt's civilization extended far beyond the traditional dates. Before mortal kings, Egypt was ruled for thousands of years by divine beings and demigods. The great structures, built in perfect alignment with the heavens, were said to be the work of the gods themselves. This account has been largely dismissed by modern scholars, but it remains one of the oldest written records of Egyptian prehistory. Archaeologist Robert Bauval, in The Orion Mystery, 1994, argues that the Great Pyramid was designed not as a tomb, but as an astronomical marker, aligning precisely with the stars of Orion's belt. The Great Pyramid is aligned with incredible precision to the stars, and its positioning in relation to the Nile mimics the layout of Orion's belt in relation to the Milky Way. This suggests that the builders encoded celestial knowledge into the structure, knowledge that could have come from an earlier, advanced civilization. Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University, examined the erosion patterns on the Sphinx. The weathering on the Sphinx suggests heavy rainfall over an extended period, something that hasn't occurred in Egypt since the end of the last ice age, over 10,000 years ago. If the Sphinx is this old, it raises serious questions about the dating of the Great Pyramid as well. Further challenging the conventional dating, radiocarbon testing of organic materials found inside the pyramid has yielded results that do not match Khufu's timeframe. In The Secret of the Great Pyramid, 2009, architect Jean-Pierre Houdin writes, radiocarbon dating of wood samples found in the pyramid's mortar has produced dates ranging from 400 to 1,000 years before Khufu's reign. This suggests that either the pyramid was built in phases over a longer period than previously thought, or that the materials used were already ancient at the time of construction. Some researchers, including Graham Hancock, in Fingerprints of the Gods, propose that an advanced pre-dynastic civilization may have passed down knowledge of pyramid building to the Egyptians. The possibility exists that the ancient Egyptians inherited the pyramids rather than building them from scratch. There are numerous inconsistencies in the historical record and the mathematical sophistication embedded in the Great Pyramid. Its pi and phi ratios, its geodetic positioning, suggests a level of knowledge that is difficult to explain using the standard historical model. Egyptologist Mark Lehner, while dismissing alternative theories, acknowledges the mystery surrounding the pyramid's construction in his book, The Complete Pyramids. Even with our modern technology, the level of precision achieved in the Great Pyramid remains astonishing. The ability of the ancient Egyptians to align it so precisely with cardinal directions, to construct corridors with perfect angles, and to transport massive stones over great distances. These are feats that continue to challenge our understanding of their engineering capabilities. When considering these discoveries, one must question the assumption that human civilization began with the Sumerians or the Egyptians. The truth may be more complex and span millennia longer than we think. John Anthony West, Serpent in the Sky, 1993.